Right. So now I've already recorded the call, Sharad.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. So first of all, thank you everybody for taking time to join this call and spending your valuable time in keeping yourself up to date as to what's happening in the real estate market today. So a couple of things I generally keep this meeting very interactive. So if you have any questions guys want to ask, or if you want to stop me in the middle, please raise your hands, type your questions in the chat box. And I have Karen here. She is moderating the meeting, and she'll be more than happy to take your questions and stop me in the middle. So let's keep it more interactive. Whenever you have questions, feel free to raise your hand or to stop me. All right. So one questions which I get asked from many people, I think I get almost about 5 or 6 calls every day from my clients and from people who want to be my clients or people who are looking to get into real estate market. So people are lots of times, this is the main question which I get asked is, hey, shall I be waiting to get into a home right now? And are we about to see a new wave of foreclosures, just like we saw in 2008? And that's what is sort of people playing on top of people's mind right now. Everybody is trying to figure out if there is a way the homes are going to cut down in prices. And are there ways people can make some deals in the housing market? And are we about to see the new wave of foreclosure? So that's the topic for the day. And I'll give a brief overview as to what I think is going to happen to the real estate market. And this is based on the data which we look at on daily basis. The data which we have, we go back as far as about 50 to 60 years, and we look at most of this data. And what my take is that even though there is a lot of havoc being caused by COVID-19 in the market right now, but the way we are looking at it is that most of the time for general population, people who are not really breathing and living real estate 24/7, most of the time the way people think is that's just how the brain works. And most of the time people are only limited to the last bad thing which had happened to them. Most of the time people are thinking that, hey, what happened in 2008? And 2008 was really a bloodbath for real estate. And that's what is top of people's mind. But there are a couple of key differences which I like to point out between 2008 and today. And based on those key points, we'll see whether we are still going to look at new wave of foreclosures or not. So the number one being back in 2008, and I think I had touched upon this point a couple of times in our past seminars also, but back in 2008, real estate was really at the cause of the recession. It was real estate, it was subprime lending, which caused the recession. And that's one of the primary reasons why at that time, the home prices took such a great dip. The real estate market went down by about 20%. And really at that time, nobody had a clue as to what is happening in the market. Nobody was very well prepared. Government didn't have any clue. Freddie Mac, they didn't have any clue what is happening. People were trying to come up with solutions as and when we were learning new things. I don't know if how many of you guys were in the market at that time, and how many guys are you aware, but in 2008, the short sale process itself was modified and remodified by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac by almost 32 times during those couple of years, 2-3 years. So that was the level of our understanding at that time. We didn't knew what is going on, and people were learning as things were going on. Versus as opposed to this time the biggest thing is that the real estate or the recession that is not being caused by real estate. Real estate is nowhere in the picture. The recession is rather caused by a health concern.
Yeah.
And the way we are sort of comparing it is with the recession which was caused in 2001, which was not caused by real estate, but caused by certain terrorist activities. And early 2000 was caused by a dot-com boom. So this particular recession, we are comparing it with what happened in 2001. So essentially what happened in 2001 is there was absolutely zero impact to real estate. Real estate actually grew up by about 6.8% in 2001. The biggest areas which got impacted were restaurant business, airline business, hotel business, all the places where people have discretionary spending. Most of those places were impacted during that time. And that is the exactly similar behavior which we are seeing right now. Couple of other things which had changed since 2008 and up till today is that the government had learned its lesson. So just like I said, back in 2008, we made almost 32 changes to the processes which we wanted to take as far as short sale and foreclosures were concerned. Whereas today, a couple of things which had happened is that the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, they have put up a stop on for the next 60 days that there can be no more foreclosures and there can be no more evictions, irrespective of whether people are paying their mortgage or not. That's have happened for the last 60 days. And it is really a proactive measure which the government has taken, whereas in 2008, we were all lost. Outside of that, one other thing, what most of the service providers, mortgage service providers are doing is they are enabling most of the homeowners to delay their mortgages for the next 6 months. So you can just file a simple application and say, hey, I don't want to pay my mortgage for the next 6 months, no questions asked. So it's not like they are getting rid of that mortgage from your plate, but it's sort of a forbearance where you don't have to pay that mortgage for next 6 months. And they really don't know what they're going to do after 6 months, whether they're going to come up with a balloon payment or whether they are going to tag that mortgage at the end of your mortgage or whatever the balance pending you have at the end of the mortgage. But those are some of the really good proactive measures which some of these agencies have taken. Number one, that the FHA have announced that there cannot be no more foreclosures and evictions for next 60 days, irrespective of whether the mortgage gets paid or not. Number two, most of the service providers, they have delayed or they are giving a 6 months forbearance to all the mortgage owners that you don't have a need to pay mortgages for the next 6 months. The number third thing which have happened is that as compared to 2008, the government is really very proactive. You guys, all of you guys would have heard about these billions of dollars and trillions of dollars which government is paying as stimulus funds really at the starting of this recession and not really waiting for the last, like till the last moment. And they're really helping homeowners to sort of give some cash in their hands and figuring out a way how to keep people, help people stay afloat. So those are three main really good proactive measures which had been happening from the from the government side. No, so no, I was not trying to show my screen yet, but I'm going to share it in a moment. So just FYI.
So Sharad, quick question, Sharad. With what you said, my question is this across all mortgage service providers that they have 6 months of forbearance?
Absolutely. Each and every service provider, they are required by law to give you a 6 months forbearance, maximum 6 months. Now, you can apply for 1 month, you can apply for 2 months. It's really up to you. Maximum is up to 6 months.
Okay.
And I'm sharing my screen right now. Somebody asked for sharing the screen. And the other thing was that homeowners have really learned their lessons as opposed to last time. What actually happened last time in 2008, that people were using their homes as an ATM machines. People had really leveraged their homes, taken so much money out of their home and spent in like luxury vacations, paying for jets, paying for aeroplanes. Even I even know cases where before people will go to Safeway or to go buy a carton of milk, they'll first really go to their ATM, get the money out of their homes and then go and purchase their groceries. I even remember some of those people. But they really learned their lesson from last time. And we just did an analysis on how much the homes are leveraged right now. Let me see if I can pull up that data in that chart. Sorry, it's a repetition of a couple of things from last time, but this is really a good, good data points to look at. Let me see if I can find those charts somewhere. Okay, here it is. So if you guys look at this chart, this comparison between 2008 and today, the homes back in 2008 were really, really very leveraged. So people had almost $824 billion taken out of their homes. People were using their money just like an ATM machines. What banks had done since then, and banks have really learned their lessons. Banks had lost tons of money during that time. Almost each and every bank was bailed out. And the lending standards were really tightened after that. Government learned its lesson, people learned its lesson. And really today, if you look at it, the homes are not that much leveraged. People have only about 232 billion out of their homes. It's almost 1/4 of what people had leveraged their home back in 2008. What essentially this means is that how much equity people have in their homes currently. So the higher the percentage of equity people have in their homes, the lesser chances there are that they are going to throw away their home or give away their home back to the bank. That's what I'm trying to point out here. Since the homes are not that much leveraged, the chances of people or the homeowners in general giving away their home are very, very diminished.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions there? Do we have any questions, Karen?
I do not see any questions on the chat box.
Okay, all right. So that was sort of at a high level that, hey, even though things are not looking good right now, many people, there is a lot of unemployment and whatnot. But as far as the home pricing is concerned, where we stand today, again, nobody have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what is going to happen in the market in the future. But what we can do is
Absolutely.
we can look at the past data and we can try to make sense of that past data. We don't see anything happening to the real estate market going forward. Even we are talking about that real estate might be the one reason why US is going to come out of the current recession, just because the real estate market is really, really so strong. All the underlying factors, as far as the finance and as far as the real estate is concerned, everything is rock solid. Just that the current recession is caused by an external factor. It has nothing to do with real estate. And from my perspective, there is nothing to be worried about, that the home prices are either going to fall down drastically or there might be a wave of foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions, guys? So Karen, there were some questions over the email, which I think I forwarded them to you. Can you take those questions and we can?
Yes. One question here though. Sure. Sharad, will surging unemployment crush home sales?
Sorry, say that again.
Sure. Will surging unemployment crush home sales, Sharad?
Oh, okay, wonderful. That's a great question, actually. Yeah, somebody asked that question to me that, hey, so many people are getting unemployed. How people are going to pay for their mortgages since they don't have money to pay, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
A couple of things which I mentioned upfront is, number one, the 6 months forbearance plan on the mortgage. So that's a proactive step. Practically everybody who have lost their jobs, they can apply straight for 6 months forbearance. So they don't absolutely have to pay their mortgages for next 6 months. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, here is some data which I pulled, I think, a couple of weeks ago or last week, based on a couple of these big institutes who are predicting how deeply or how deep the pain of these job cuts is going to have on the current economy. All right. And these are the numbers of the unemployment which some of these institutes are forecasting. Can you see my screen? So
Yes, we can.
According to Goldman Sachs, what they're predicting is that the maximum employment rate, which we are going to see, will going to be about 15%. Merrill Lynch predicts at about 10.6%, and Wells Fargo predicts at 7.3% as far as the unemployment rates are concerned. And when we look at that, and give me a moment, let me see if I can pull up another chart. So there was a chart I was working on. Okay, so let's first look at this one. So most of these big projection, most of these companies who project the financial outlook going forward, and again, I'm not a financial analyst, but I'm talking more from the data which these companies have come up with, is that this is mostly going to be a V-shaped recession. What I mean by V-shaped recession is that as we are seeing right now, everything is what you call is in a state of disarray. But the thing is that the faster it is going to go down, it's going to come back up as quickly as it is going to go down. And this is what most of these charts is telling us, that this particular recession, COVID-19 projection, it's going to be a rebound in economy within the next 2 years. The recession is going to be like this. The unemployment rate will hit the peak of about 15%. And at that point in time, the things are going to start coming back to normal. As opposed to between 2006 and 2016, it really took us about 10 to 12 years to come back to the normal. But this one is a little bit different than as we compared between 2006 and 2016. It is more looking as more and more as 2001. Did I answer that question?
Yes, Sharad, absolutely.
I had another chart. I'm thinking of pulling it up. I don't know where I put it, but I'll see if I can pull it up. Any other questions we have on the call?
So Sharad, I have one question regarding this. I was looking at these numbers from Wall Street Journal because they also have the same numbers.
Right.
So my question is, as a real estate person who wants to like rent out properties, if the unemployment is going to skyrocket almost 3 times of what it is right now, I will not be in a favorable grounds to rent it out right now, right?
Okay, so let me understand the question. So as a landlord, your question is whether it is the right time to rent out properties because of the unemployment rate being high. Is that the right question?
Yeah, I mean, I know the other side is I don't have a choice.
Well, there are two ways to look at it. Yeah, there are two ways to look at it. One is, then as being a landlord, the biggest thing which you have to keep in mind is how much is your cap rate, or what are your rates on return on investment, right? And I think I can pull up this chart. I don't know where that's charted right now, but I can send it to you guys later on, that there is a direct correlation between whenever we see these recessions in the past, most of the times the rental market has gone up. And there are a couple of reasons behind that. Some of these people who has a want to buy a home, some of these people, once they have lost some money in the stock market and whatnot, they generally move towards renting their property, and they delay their buying decisions for some time. So rental property market have always seen an increase as far as the rental market is concerned. Whenever the market is a little bit shaky, more and more people say, hey, you know what, I'm going to wait for another 2 months or 3 months, let me rent it for now. So having said that, from rental perspective, the biggest thing to look for is how much impact it's going to have as far as your cap rate is concerned. And I'm pretty sure when you took your rental properties, you did that math, you did that analysis, and you are in positive. So to answer your question, having the renters in place, I don't see that might be a problem. Having the rental income for a limited amount of time till we start seeing things coming back to normal, you might see a little bit of dip in that based on what neighborhood you are on. But as far as finding renters and as far as the vacancy rates are concerned, in my opinion, you should not see any problem.
Thank you, Sharad.
Did I answer that question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions on the phone?
One question here, Sharad.
Yeah.
How about the stock market correction? Is it going to impact home values and increase foreclosures?
Absolutely, and that's the next point which I was coming in. If you guys can see my screen. So this is a chart which shows that what happens to real estate market whenever the stock market goes down. Okay. So most of the time, there are two ways people invest in market. Number one, either they invest in stocks or they invest in real estate. Those are the two main areas where people invest their money in. And what we have seen, if I just compare it with the 2000 and 2002 recession, because the way we are thinking with the way this recession is looking like is what happened in 2001. The stock market corrected by almost 45% in 2000, 2001. But if you look at the home prices, they in fact went up. In 2000, the home prices went up by about 8.6%, 2001 by almost 6.6%, 2002 by 8.5%. So what happens is whenever people see stock market going down, the first thing people do is take their money out of stock market. And what is the next safest haven for them? The next safest haven is real estate. That's where most of the money goes.
Okay.
So in this country, I have seen people don't invest in gold and gold and diamonds. Either it's stock
Okay.
market or it's real estate. So to answer your question, that we don't see any direct correlation between stock market going down versus and the home prices crashing. Now, having said that, the home prices might not appreciate at the same rate. It's not like if the homes were appreciating at, let us say, 6.7% year over year. What I am not saying that they will continue to keep appreciating at 6.7% year over year. What I am saying is that they will not start depreciating. The appreciation might moderate, maybe in 2%, 3%, 4%. That we might not see the same level of appreciation, but it's not like just in 2008, the prices went down by 20%. There is no way we are seeing that scenario.
Great. Okay. Thanks for answering, Sharad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, any other questions on the call?
Yeah, Viral, we got Viral, Bhuvan, Ivana, and Sarab. Please feel free to ask questions. I got you guys unmuted. So, yeah.
So let me ask that. So people on the call, I want to make sure that I'm bringing value to you guys' time. So what were some of the main things why you guys hopped onto the call today? Let me hear that from you so that I can see if I can help you out, get more clear answers on the main cause behind getting on this call today.
I wanted to see your opinion about the current situation. Stock market is obviously on rise. I think everybody is investing.
Right, that is correct. That is correct. So people are still investing in stock market. It have gone through a little bit down and up.
Yeah, I think last time the market crashed, I think it was like around 23rd and 28th March. But ever since then, stocks are tanking. So it's not as bad as I was thinking.
Right. Absolutely.
Obviously not as bad as like 2008. So even though people are staying home, maybe lots of people are they lost their job or maybe they're furloughed. But still, I think I'm still trying to understand how everybody's managing to come up with funds and investing, because it's very uncertain, right? How long this is gonna go for. And if you look at the unemployment rate, it's high, it has gone up.
Yes, absolutely. So from the real estate perspective, some of these forbearance plan and some of these stimulus checks, they're really helping people. And there was another thing, I don't know if you guys know about it. I'm not sure how many people are self-employed out there who are on the call, but there are a couple of plans which government has put in place, like a paycheck protection plan is another one where you can.
Yeah, but you cannot just take out those money and use for your like personal use, right? I mean, that money. So I have I got my PPP loan approved, but that I cannot just use that funds for whatever I want to use, right? If I want government to forgive the loan, right? If I want 100% forgiveness, then I cannot use that loan for my own personal purposes, right? I have to use it towards the payrolls or paying rents and utilities. And we are talking about the commercial. We are not talking about commercial property, right? This is just the regular, like average Joe who owns home. I also don't understand how is it good for anyone to just get the forbearance from the banks, right? I mean, you do get some extra time to make your payments, but like after 6 or 4 months, you still have to make all those payments. So it's not like your 6 months worth of payments are forgiven.
Yeah, so we don't know what is going to happen after 6 months. So nobody's talking about that they are going to get forgiven. Nobody have talked about it right now.
No, I mean, I still don't understand why people would request for forbearance on their existing mortgage. I mean, how does it make sense? I mean, it's not like government is forgiving your loan completely. You're still gonna have to end up paying after a couple of months. Maybe you can just like hold off on making those payments, right? Or maybe you can invest that money somewhere else for maybe a couple of months, but that's pretty much it.
Yes, absolutely. I'll give you my example. Even though I don't have any problem paying my mortgage, but I still have taken six months forbearance on my mortgage. And what I am going to do, personally speaking, and that's what I have seen lots of other people are doing that, I'm going to take that money and invest back either in stocks, whatever money I have right now, or either I will invest that back in my business, make some money off of it, and then after 6 months I'm going to pay whatever the forbearance plan, whatever is there at that time to pay.
All right, and I think that only works out if you can make some profit in next couple of months. And for some reason your investment doesn't go well, then you lost anyway, either
Oh,
way.
absolutely,
Otherwise,
absolutely. There are always ifs and buts with an investment. Nobody knows whether their investment is going to be safe or not, but everybody tries to make money.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is people who have lost their jobs, those are the most of the people who are asking for this forbearance, right? And everybody have a positive outlook that things are going to change in another 4, 5, 6 months. People will get onto their job, back onto their job. And we really had this discussion, I think about a couple of weeks ago, that, hey, what will happen after 6 months when all of these people have to pay these last 6 months of mortgages? It will be outstanding. And what happens if banks starts asking for the balloon mortgage? To be honest with you, nobody had an answer to that question. What we could only come up with is that, hey, since government is very much proactive right now, I'm pretty sure that there are going to be either some sort of bailout programs for these servicing companies at that time, or they are going to come up with a way to tag these mortgages at the end of the mortgage period. So there are going to be some different changes or some different programs which are going to come out at the end of 6 months. That's what everybody's opinion is. For now, nobody have a clarity on that.
So if I understand this correctly, Sharad, the forbearance agreement doesn't come with a agreement that if you default on the forbearance that you will be foreclosed? After 6 months, if I don't pay my mortgage for whatever reason,
right,
and there's no government bailout, then the bank can foreclose my property.
So if you are taking a forbearance, and if the bank comes after you after 6 months and they want to take your entire balloon mortgage from you at one point in time, and if you're not able to pay, then there are two options. Number one, either you can work with the bank, or if you cannot work with the bank and if the bank doesn't agree, then absolutely you have to go with a short sale or for the foreclosure.
So you mean they would allow like restructuring of your loan?
That's what we are talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Remember, it's not a small impact after 6 months that it's going to be only on one person or 10 people. It's going to be a massive impact. And keep in mind that the elections are also coming up. It's not going to be in anybody's interest to figure out to have all these people stay outside of their home and leave their homes and give that to foreclosure. And based on our understanding, based on whatever the financial institutes we talk about every day, we all are hoping, and again, it's a hope. I don't have a clear answer for that because I don't have, but we all are hoping that there is going to be either a separate set of plan where all these mortgages are getting taken and they will restructure the loan or tag it at the end of their mortgages, or some other bailout is going to happen at that point in time.
Hey, Sharad, this is Bhuvan. I have a question.
Yes, Bhuvan.
So in this market, when there is no certainty of jobs and in many sectors, what do you think, would it be easy or tough to secure a loan in coming few months?
Okay, so let me reiterate that question so I can understand it better. So your question was, given the current unemployment, going in the future, will it be easier to secure the loan or it's going to be difficult to secure the loan? Is that the right question?
All right, so let's say somebody wants to buy a house in next few months or so, and there's no certainty of jobs. So would it be hard to secure a loan or would it be same as previously?
Absolutely, wonderful, and that's a great question. So let's look at how banks look at a person when they talk about loans, okay? So I will not just limit my answer to what the question you asked. I will take a little bit of detour and give a bigger overall picture. So when banks give you loan, they actually qualify two different things. Okay. Number one, they qualify the borrower. That's the first level of qualification, which happens. The way they qualify the borrower is based on 3 C's. C as in cat, 3 C's. One is your capacity. The second one is the borrower's credit. And the third one is the borrower's character. Those are the 3 C's against which banks, look at a borrower, and banks qualify a borrower against those 3 C's. Capacity means whether you are able to pay your mortgage as of today. That's what capacity means. Capacity also includes how much down payment you have. That's also included in capacity. Capacity means how much money you have. Credit means how's your credit score. Obviously, the lower credit score you have, the higher, the riskier borrower you are, and the higher money banks want to make. And the third thing is your character. Now, sometimes people have a problem in their credit score where, since they were out of a job for a couple of months, they couldn't pay a mortgage, but then there is no other red dots on their credit score or a credit history. They have been very good in paying all their mortgages and whatnot. That shows your character, that obviously you ran into some temporary issues, but you are not a habitual defaulter on your mortgages or on your commitments. So that's what I mean by character. Those are the 3 things which banks look at, and that's how they qualify a borrower. The second thing what banks qualify is the properties. Now, when they qualify you, all they are looking for is whether you will be able to pay that mortgage or not. That's the only thing what banks are looking at when they are qualifying a borrower. When they are qualifying a property, the way they are looking at the property is, if my borrower stops paying me the mortgage, can I sell the home and get my money back? That's why they are qualifying a property. So those are the 2 different levels at which banks qualify before they give you the loan. Now, to answer your question, will it be difficult or will it be easy? Let me show you this. This is basically a comparison or a ongoing mortgage affordability credit index. This is an industry standard index. What this index shows is how easy or how difficult is it for the borrowers in today's market to get the loan. The higher the affordability index, which means the easier it is for people to get the loan or for the borrowers to get the loan. If we go back and look at somewhere between 2005 middle and 2006, that's when that 2008 real estate bubble really started happening because of subprime mortgages. We had a joke at that point in time that if you can breathe and if you have pulse, you should be able to get the mortgage. That's how people were getting the mortgage. And if you look at the mortgage affordability index, it was an all-time high. We had never seen that mortgage affordability index in the past. We have never seen it after that in so many years. In today's market, banks have learned its lesson, just like I said, after 2008, and they have really, really, really tightened up their lending guidelines. It's not like they are tightening up right now, but they have already tightened up since the last 2008 shock, which most of the banks received. And today they are really, really qualifying the buyers. So to answer your question, Bhuvan, was that Bhuvan, right?
Right.
So to answer,
Yes, that's right.
Correct. So to answer your question, as long as a borrower, you are meeting those 3 C's, capacity, credit, and your character, and the home qualifies for whatever money you are asking from the bank, as long as you are meeting on those 2 parameters, I don't see why getting a loan in the future is going to be more difficult than getting the loan is today. Now, having said that, some of the banks, what they have started doing is, and I have not seen this as widespread yet, we still have to see more and more banks talking about it. I have only heard from JP Morgan Chase where they are saying that they will only loan to people who have 20% money in their pocket, people who can put 20% money down, because that's a magic number which most of these financial institutions have come up after mining the data from last 100 years or so, that anybody who have 20% or higher equity in their home, the chances of them defaulting on their mortgage drops down to less than 10%. And I have heard only from JP Morgan Chase that they're tightening up that lending standard. They're only going to give mortgages to people who have 20% or more to put down, but I still have to see a widespread adoption of that lending standard. So to answer your question, going forward, I would be very surprised that it will be difficult to obtain a loan. It will be more difficult to obtain a loan as it is difficult today. And that's what my understanding is of the financial market.
Okay, thank you.
Did I answer that question?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay.
Isn't now is the best time to buy home if you have stable job and if you have funds? Because
Absolutely.
the loan rates are super cheap.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Great question. So I get asked that question almost 10 times every day. So my answer to that question is the best time was like 5 years ago to purchase a home, not today. But to answer your question, there are a couple of factors which are going on right now. Number one, just like you said, the interest rates are really super cheap. I just closed a loan for somebody through a credit union like 3 days ago at 30-year fixed at about 2.75%. That's like free money. So to answer your question, interest rates are super low, and we are not going to see these interest rates back again. Probably till elections, we might see these interest rates, but after that, interest rates are bound to increase, and I'll tell you a couple of reasons why that is. That is primary reason. The second reason is that the people who had the buyers who were in the market because they wanted, and here the keyword is want, people who wanted to buy a home, they are out of the market. They are just waiting on the sideline, waiting to time the market. And I talk to lots of these people every day, and I'm not sure how somebody can time the market. We all will be billionaires if we can time the market. But to be honest with you, people who had a want, they are out of the market. But people who have a need to buy a home, needs don't change, COVID-19 or not, terrorist attack or not, needs don't change. And really, home buying is really tied up with specific factors which happens in people's life. Either you are getting married, or you have a job change, or you have kids. There are specific factors in everybody's life cycle due to which either they buy a home or they upgrade a home. Those factors don't change. So people who have a need, the keyword here is need, they're still buying the home. The sellers who have a need to sell, and sellers don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to play sell today. They absolutely have a need for the money. That's the reason why they want to sell the home. Either they need money for medical reasons, and I'm only going to talk about the top 2 or 3 reasons why people sell their home, or they are retiring, they are moving out of the area, and the third big reason is they want to pay the college tuition. So those are the 3 major reasons. Those needs and those reasons are not going away. So if we work on the keyword of need, needy buyers are still buying, needy sellers are still selling. But essentially what has happened is that buyers who wanted to buy or the sellers who wanted to sell, those set of buyers and sellers, they're practically out of the market because there is no room in the market to play around with numbers. Essentially where I'm driving this discussion to, where I'm trying to land the plane with all this information is, if you are in the market to buy, outside of having great interest rates, there are a couple of other factors which are working in your favor right now. There are needy sellers. You are working with needy sellers. They have a need to sell. So they are more open to looking at your offers, genuine offers. They are more open to looking at genuine buyers. Sellers who had a want to sell, they only want to work with buyers who will give them the absolute highest price. So as far as buyers are concerned, there is a great room for negotiation right now, which you have. That's the second point. The third point is the buyers who wanted to buy a home, they are out of the market, and the competition is really very less. So in past, where for every property where we were seeing about 8 to 10 offers was the normal norm. Right now, we're seeing about 2 to 3 offers coming on a property, and sometimes for some of properties, we are even seeing only 1 offer. So if you take a combination of the 3 factors, interest rates being low, the sellers are needy, they need to sell, so they're more open for the right negotiation. And from the buyer side, the competition is low because only the needy buyers are in the market. To answer your question, even though the right time to purchase was 5 years ago, today is an absolute wonderful time to jump into the market.
Has this has this whole situation impact the appraisal prices of the existing properties? Are you familiar with any refinancing lately?
So when you talk about appraisal, you're talking about appraisal from the refinance perspective or appraisal from the new purchase perspective?
Appraisal from the refinance purchase point of view.
So from the refinance point of view, as of today, there are, if I look at the home prices, right, and if I draw a chart, and I can, in next meeting, I can come up with some more data points. And if you guys can send me an email about to exactly what neighborhood or what county or what area you're looking for, I can give you specific charts around that neighborhood. But as far as my overall understanding is concerned, there is absolutely zero impact on the home prices as of today. Having said that, when we talk about appraisals, appraisals work a little bit differently. The way appraisals work is appraisers always look at the data which is probably about 6 months old. Appraisers are always 6 months behind the market. Whether the market is going down or whether the market is going up, appraisal process is almost always over 6 months behind. So to answer your question, I have not seen any impact on the refinances appraisals as of yet. And I do lots and lots of refinances. In fact, if you go back to any bank and ask them, most of the bank have even stopped taking a refinance applications as of today because they have burned out of their capacity. They don't have capacity to well, service so many refinance applications. Everybody is refinancing, even having that much large data of refinancing. I have not really seen an impact on appraisals yet. Nobody have come to me and said that my home haven't appraised for the price at which I wanted to appraise it for. Again, that might be a couple of different reasons because lots of time, let me see if I can show that to you here somewhere. Almost 37% of the homes in the United States, and there is almost about 78.6 million worth of inventory right now across the United States. There are 78.6 million homes which are overall inventory. About 5.6% sell every year. And about, I think, 3.4 or 3.2% of the homes get refinanced every year. So that's a large volume of homes. Having said that, more than 37% of people have their homes free and clear. And almost 53 or 54% of people, they have, or homeowners, they have more than 50% of equity in their homes. So even if when you're appraising your home, when you are doing refinancing, it really depends on how much equity you have already built into your home. So we might not be hearing that problem since people have a lot more equity in their home. There might be problem with the appraisal. The homes might not be appraising at that price. But since people already have that much equity in the home, the lower appraisal price, it's not just coming out in the open right now. So to answer your question, I have not heard about it, but it might be hidden by the fact that people have more equity in their home right now.
So, okay, let me put it differently. So let's say if I have a property that I own since like 10 years and my house has appraised since then, if I'm getting the refinancing done, would it, so obviously my house was appraised like, I think the rate of appraisal was like much better 6 months back compared to now. So if I think market goes down, the housing market goes down, then I think house won't be appraised enough. I think that's, I don't know if I'm explaining it right.
No, I think your question is a little bit more clear to me right now. So let me talk about how appraisals work, okay?
Yeah, and I also would like to understand, why do you say the appraisers are like almost 6 months behind? I don't understand why. Usually the appraisers would look at your property, they would look at, and they would compare with the other properties in your area, right? Like within a couple of miles from your area. So if the property next to my house is selling for a certain price, then obviously my house would be appraised as long as the square feet and few things matches or it's close enough, right? Isn't that how it works?
Right. Yes. So let me take both the questions. Let me take your first question first, and then I'll get to the second one. So the first question was, as far as appraisal concerned, the way the appraisers work is, the appraisers are only qualified to say whether the home which you are trying to appraise for, whether it appraises for the money you are asking for or not. And I'll explain it a little bit more. Let us say you want to purchase a home for a $1 million purchase price. Okay. Mm-hmm. Appraisers, they cannot say that this home, because they're not qualified, they're not trained to do that. They are only trained to say whether this home appraises for $1 million or not. They cannot put a higher value to the home. They cannot say that at this point in time in the market, this home is worth $1.2 million. They're not qualified to say that. They are only qualified to say whether this home is worth $1 million or not. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So the appraisers cannot put a higher value to the home. They cannot say that's its home you want to purchase for $1 million, but this home is really worth $1.3 million. They cannot do that. They're not qualified to do that. And that's not how banks work. The way banks work is I am paying $1 million for this particular home, whether this home is worth $1 million or not. That's what banks are looking at. Banks are not into the business of saying, I want to pay $1 million for this home. What is the actual price of this home? Is it 1.5 or is it 8.5? They're not in that business. What appraisers will tell you is that, hey, you want to pay $1 million for this home? Absolutely, this home is worth $1 million. Or if not, then they will put a lower limit to that number, that this home, according to their calculations, it is not worth 1 million, it is probably worth 850.
Okay.
So when you are refinancing a certain portion of your home. For example, you purchased your home for $1 million. Now your loan is about 500K, right? When you're refinancing, you're not refinancing $1 million because you already have 500K equity in the home.
Yep.
You're only refinancing 500K. So the way banks appraise is, they will say, okay, at this point in time, how much is the home is worth? If they can refinance your entire 500K equity, they have no problem. They'll just go and refinance it. But if they cannot refinance that 500K equity, then they will put a value on your home. Then they will tell you, hey, this is the difference which we cannot refinance.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying, or was that confusing? I know it's a little bit.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, they're not in the business of putting the value for the home, but they are in the business of saying, this is how much we are paying for the home, whether this home is worth this much or not. Now the home might be worth 2 million and you might be purchasing it for 1 million, right? So banks are not going to give you $1 million cash in your pocket just because that home is worth 2 million. They're still going to refinance $1 million for you.
Yeah.
Right. And to answer your second question, by 6 months. So the way the appraisals work, they work like depth first. And let me try to figure out if I can have an analogy there. So I know pretty sure everybody in this call do programming. And when we talk about object-oriented programming and when we talk about the modules that where they are going to, who is the parent class and who is the child class and whatnot, right? At least whatever with my limited understanding, at the first class first, go all the way deep down. Then you move on to the second class, go all the way deep down. That's how you look for those variables or for those functions, right? The same way appraisals work. The way appraisals work is first they'll define a 0.25 mile radius. And they want to find out 3 properties which have sold, 3 properties which are pending, 3 properties which are currently on the market. Those are the 9 properties which they look at. And they limit the radius to 0.25 miles first. And they want to find those 9 properties within that 0.25 mile radius. Okay. If they cannot find those properties within that 0.25 mile radius, their first intention is not to increase the miles of radius. Their first intention is to increase the length of time. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
So let us say I'm an appraisal and I'm appraising your home. First, I'm going to say, okay, are there homes within 0.25 mile radius? 9 homes I'm looking at which got sold in last 3 months is first they look at. Last 3 months, give me a list of 3 homes which got sold recently, 3 homes which are pending on the market, and 3 homes which are on the market. And that's how they do the comparison between those 9 homes. Okay? Mm-hmm. If they cannot find those 9 homes, they don't increase the radius, they increase the length of time. Then they will say, give me all the homes which were within the last 6 months. Then they will increase it to 9 months. Some appraisers increase to 6 months, some appraisers increase to 9 months. If they cannot find the comparable data, then they increase the radius. Then they will increase the radius to 0.5. Then they will do the same exercise again.
All right.
So at the times when appraisers are looking at that data, 90% of the times in my experience, and every appraiser have a different way of working, and every appraiser has been trained differently. Every bank work with different appraisers. Most of the time with whatever appraisers I have worked with, their first shot they look at the last 6 months worth of data.
Okay, I now
Okay.
understand. So if I get my house appraised right now, then probably they are going to consider data from last 6 months, and that's why you think it's always 6 months behind.
Yes, correct,
Makes
correct.
sense.
They always look at last 6 months data at the homes closest to your neighborhood within the last 6 months.
All right. So let's say if the housing market like doom neck tomorrow, right? It's still not going to be too bad because appraisal still is lagging behind.
That is correct. That is correct.
All right, makes sense.
And yeah, that's correct. So there are a couple of other ways to look at it, right? So the bottom of the market, now lots of time people say, I'm going to purchase a home at the bottom of the market, or I'm going to time the market and whatnot, right? So the downward momentum or the upward momentum, it's really very difficult to catch till you are on the other side. Let me try to explain. For example, you are drawing a line, right? So let us say I'm drawing a line, and if I ask you, hey, is it the bottom of the market? What will your answer be? You'll say, I don't know. Is it now the bottom of the market? You'll say,
It
I
just
don't know.
depends what's your reference, right?
Right. So your reference is when the market starts going up. That's when you'll realize that the market was at the bottom at that point in time. Or when you are going up, till the market starts going down, you cannot figure out where the peak was.
That's right.
And appraisers, that's how they look at. Since they are looking at last 6 months, the market goes down to have an impact. But probably after 6 months, when they're going to look at that data, at that time, the current, if the market tanks down totally today, that data is going to reflect after 3 to 6 months. That's when the problem is going to start happening, even though the market might be going up.
Right.
Did I confused completely?
No.
Okay.
We have one question here from Mahendra. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. We have one more question here from Mahendra. She wants to know if there's any reliable website for foreclosure listing in New Jersey, Sharad?
Reliable website for foreclosures in New Jersey.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, there are lots of websites on the market. It depends on what you are looking for. So are you looking for commercial properties? Are you looking for residential properties? Are you looking for rental properties? What sort of properties you were looking at? And I can send few websites to you if that is okay. Karen, can you please take a note, and we can send some websites to Mahendra.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Residential, she said.
Okay. Realty Track is one. And there are a couple more. I'm missing their name right now, but I can send an email to you, Mahendra. Any other questions, guys?
Mahendra also mentioned she has applied for HELOC, and
Yes.
if she can apply for a refinance at the same time, Sharad?
Yes, absolutely. You can do both the things at the same time. And it's good to do both the things at the same time and consolidate your loans. And I have even seen some banks, especially with credit unions, what they do is lots of time people have car loans and they are paying I've seen some people paying 3.5%, 4% on their car loans. And that interest is not tax deductible. So I've seen people taking money out of their home equity line of credit, paying for the car loan, and then whatever interest they are paying on their HELOC, that becomes tax deductible immediately. So it's always good to consolidate all the loans into one.
Right. One more follow-up question. Do you think she needs to wait until they approved the HELOC?
To get the refinance?
Yes.
No, I don't think you need to wait. Rather, I'll say is to start that conversation with your bank, whoever is doing your HELOC line of credit, and ask them, hey, is there a way I can consolidate all my loans and look at the holistic picture of your loans all together? Maybe if you have credit cards who are high paid interest, maybe even roll them into your refinance and get rid of higher interest rate credit cards. And whatever interest you are paying on your home, anyhow that all becomes tax deductible up to a certain amount. So it's always good to consolidate everything together. So it's not neither late and neither you need to follow the steps in sequential. You can take both the steps in parallel.
Sharad, Bhuvan again. So I have a question regarding banks. I'm not sure whether it would be applicable to current situation or it would be applicable in general. But my dilemma is, how do we decide which banks to approach for a loan? Which are more favorable banks and which are less favorable banks?
Absolutely. And there are a couple of key differences between the banks. Number one is my first preference is, and that's how I guide most of my clients, always first try to work with the bank with whom you have a banking relationship already existing. And there are a couple of reasons behind that. You should always go back and ask them, hey, I have been a client with you for so long, and it really depends on how much money you have parked with them. Some banks give you really favorable rates if you have an existing relationship with them. For example, if you are working with Wells Fargo, and if you have parked about almost 250K in any bank account, they give you about 0.25% off of your mortgage. They have a special program for their premier clients. So the first choice should always go to the bank. You already have a banking relationship and figure out if they have any special programs running for their existing clients. The second thing, I always work on two plans with my clients, Plan A and Plan B when we talk about lending. I always have two banks with whom I am working with, and there are a couple of benefits around that. First one is, if one bank fails to come up with the money at the end time, I always have a plan B or a fallback plan always. Number two, I can ask both the plans to compete with each other and make sure that they're beating each other's prices. So personally, I always like to work with two banks. So that's what I recommend to most of the clients. And the second way which you should look at it is, I have found credit unions to be really, really very affordable. When I talk about affordability, there are a couple of things which come into affordability. So the way this entire financing system and this lending system works, banks are not giving you money out of their own pocket. They are just the what do you call, the end window or the final people who hand you the money. They are only the servicers. Let me put it that way. The money is actually paid by the investors, right? The way banks earn their money is they earn their money on the lender charges, which bank charges you. When you look at your final statement, there will be some loan charges and file origination charges, lender charges and whatnot. That's the primary source of income for the banks because they are just servicers. They're not paying you money out of their own pocket because they don't have that much supply of money. And you should compare which banks is charging the lowest amount of lender fees and which bank is charging you the lowest amount of the transaction fees and the file fees. Those are the three different fees which banks charges. That's how you should be comparing the banks. As far as interest rates are concerned, most of the banks should be competing on interest rates with each other because that's the only factor on which they can compete with each other. So interest rates, I don't think that plays that much a big difference. Most banks are undercutting each other's interest rate to grab a share of the market. The biggest difference will be on the character of the bank, that how successful they have been in bringing the money to the table at the closing. Because I don't want my clients to give notice to their rental properties. They are sitting on a closing table and then bank comes and say, hey, you know what? We are sorry, we cannot come up with the money because of X reason or Y reason, right? Then the buyer is really in a difficult situation. So how good their character have been in giving the loan and how much money they are charging for their lender fees and for their loan fees. Those are the two factors on which you should be comparing the banks.
Okay, so that means some level of research is required to finalize before we, go with some bank.
Yes, absolutely. As a borrower, because ultimately, remember, you are responsible for paying that money back. So I will highly recommend that you do your own research. And maximum banks, you need to do the research. I'm not saying that you should look at like 50 different banks. As long as you talk to with your own private banking bank whom you have already existing banking relationship, pick up one credit union, which is very prominent in your area. And the third one, which I'll highly recommend, is talk to a mortgage broker. So what these mortgage brokers do is they have, just like you go and you go to a car dealership, right? And you want to loan your car. Dealership don't have that much money to give loan for the cars to so many people. What dealership does is they will take your application and they will give your application to, let's say, 50 banks at the back end. They'll say, hey, this is the borrower, this is his application, this is his capacity, this is his credit, this is his character. What are the rates from the banks on the back end? And then we'll give you 2 or 3 different rates. If lender, this is your grade going to be, if you work with this lender, this is your rate going to be. And that's exactly how the mortgage brokers work. They don't have money to pay out of their own pocket, but they take your application, they farm out to lots of investors and to lots of banks at the back end, and then they give you the best favorable rates. So the 3 places which you should really compare is your own primary bank, one credit union, which is very prominent in your area, and the third one, a good mortgage broker. As long as you're doing your homework in between those 3 people, you will land in the safe position.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Any other questions?
I cannot see any more questions on the chat box, Sharad.
Okay, wonderful. So this is the last chart. I think I was looking for it. I don't know how it showed up on my laptop. So if we compare 2006 versus today, this was I was looking when I was talking. The median income which is needed today to afford a home, look at it. It's dropped down by almost 10%. Even though the home prices are going up, but the interest rates are so low that people are only paying about 15% of their income to afford their homes, as compared to 25% what people were paying back in 2006. So people have more affordability. People are in more safe position to afford their homes today. And most of the people in this country, they have 2 jobs. Even if one person loses his jobs, as long as they're maintaining the median income to maintain the home is only about 16% right now. So they need less and less money to pay off their mortgage just because the interest rates are so low. You guys find these seminars any valuable, helpful? Are we bringing any valuable information?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. Sure.
Great.
Okay.
Do we have any last minute questions?
All right, guys, then we'll take off, and happy end of the day wherever you guys are. Keep safe, stay happy.
Yeah.
And if you guys have any questions for us at any point in time, my page is on Homey's website. My email should also be there. My phone number should also be there. Feel free to call us, text us back, email me, anything you need. And if I have an answer, I'll give it to you. If I don't have an answer, I'll find it for you.
Thank you so much, guys, for taking time, to attend this webinar. Keep your eyes posted to our page. It's Real Estate Simplified, so you can get more information, right? And for the next webinar schedule as well, we'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharad.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Enjoy your day. Keep safe. Bye-bye.